Hey everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast, where I bring you the best and the brightest from the world of business, marketing, and entrepreneurship to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today on the podcast is Megan Reilly, owner and COO of Tippi Toes, an internationally franchised company bringing a unique program of dance and creative movement to childcare centers, schools, playgroups, and various after-school programs. And Megan has run Tippi Toes alongside her sister Sarah since 1999, when Sarah founded the company as a way to support herself after getting fired from her job as a waitress. I love how these things happen. And today, Megan is a speaker, podcaster, and soon-to-be author who shares her message and interviews other mothers through her, quote, Who is Your Momma show. And they've also appeared on Shark Tank, where they were offered three separate deals and they briefly accepted a deal with Mark Cuban, which is interesting, and we'll talk about that. But there's so much more, and I had a pleasure to meet Sarah a couple months back in New York. She's amazing, and I can't wait to get into it, so let's do it. Megan, I meant Megan, not Sarah. Megan, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, Adam? I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for having me. And I love that you use the word tenacity when you intro your podcast. I love that that's a focus. Tenacity to me is like my favorite thing, most important thing. I love it.
If and when I ever get a one of those tattoos on the inside of my lip, it would be tenacity. Or I've been thinking about getting knuckle tattoos, and that's probably what it would say across them, because that word means so much. So let's reverse it, and I will literally start with my last question. What does tenacity mean to you, Megan?
Tenacity is like, there is no quit. There is no quit. There is no nothing I won't do, nothing I'm not willing to do. It mixes up like hard work, humility, vision, all into one, in my opinion, because you have to know where you're going. Like if
Right.
you're not tenacious over nothing. You have to have a reason that you're being tenacious. So you've got to have that vision of what you're doing. Then you also have to have the humility, because there's going to be a lot of times, if you want to build something cool, that you're going to be changing the trash. You're going to be getting, yelled at by a customer. You're going to be whatever, like
changing the proverbial diapers, the duty diapers.
Exactly. And then you also just have to be, a hard worker, ready to put in the work. We talk about 10,000 hours to become an expert. You talk about like all the things. There's a million different ways it's presented, but at the end of the day, you've got to be ready to show up and do the work. So for me, it's kind of the tenacity encompasses those things: humility, vision, and then the willingness to do hard work.
I love it. Do you think you've always been tenacious in life, or has that emerged at a certain point in your life and your career?
I would say I've always had some tenacity. I've always been, there's a competitiveness to me, and there always has been. I wanted I wasn't ever willing to not give everything I had to whatever I was doing, whether that was spelling tests in 3rd grade, basketball in high school, whatever it was. There have been moments of lapse where I haven't done that. And honestly, those have been some of the harder moments for me, when I didn't have that tenacity. And then of course, those become the life lessons for me that I hang on to.
Of course. I mean, I always say, like, we all have it in us, right? There's a tenacity tank, almost like a fuel tank. And it's a matter of when you need to harness it and knowing those moments. So let's hit the rewind button here for people that are not familiar with Tippi Toes. And keep me straight here. So Tippi Toes is pretty much founded because of a football game, your sister getting fired from a waitress job, and a car payment. Let's put all those pieces together.
100%.
What's the story there? Help me help you tell this story.
Okay, so I have to say your intro was perfect, and you wrapped in like a big story in a very short amount of time. That was very impressive. No one's ever done it quite that cleanly, so well done. Yes.
Thanks, my producer, Chris. Chris, there you go. Nod to you. Yeah. Who's also editing now. There you go.
So good.
Kudos.
So my sister had a waitressing job. She was a sophomore in college. And at the time we went to the University of Oklahoma, we had our best friends went to Notre Dame, and OU was going to go up to South Bend and play football. And my sister and I were like, we're going. But Sarah had to, she had, a shift on the border in Norman, Oklahoma on that Saturday. And she was like, I'm not going to come in. And they were like, you have to come in. She's like, no, I'm going to go out of town. And they're like, if you don't come in, you lose your job. And she was like, are they really going to fire me? Well, they did. We went. It was amazing. We had a blast. I think OU actually lost. But anyways, we came back and she had no job. And she had just bought a car. And she'd called my parents and she was like, so I lost my job, but I have this car payment, kind of thinking they would spot her.
Help
and they
her
were
out.
like, sounds like you need to get another job. And so it was sink or swim. And so she relied on what she knew, what was natural for her. And we danced our whole life growing up. And so she thought, okay, well, let me just go into the local daycares, see if I can offer a dance class to just make my car payment. Let me just see if I can make that $300 a month or whatever it was at the time. And it worked. The school said yes. And so then that became like a little side hustle as she was a sophomore in college. And then over the next couple of years, it grew into when she graduated, she was just trying to get her diploma so she could get back to Tippi Toes. Like she didn't care. She hated school. And she just wanted to be able to do Tippi Toes. And over the course of her working part-time in college, it became something that could sustain her when she graduated. Now it wasn't anywhere near it whereas today, but it grew out of that. That's how it started. So she's a few years older than I am. So I came to school when she was a senior. And so when I came, then I started doing the same thing as she did, went to different schools, taught dance. And then it really organically grew from there.
I mean, it's always crazy, man. I love to talk to founders. I'm like, was there that one moment? Was it over a beer at a bar with your partner? You're like, where did that spark come from? And this comes from, you know what, making a decision to go to a football game and quitting, and quitting and not going back to it and never looking back. But so the question to you, I mean, were you kind of pushed into it? Were you, what was drawn to you to go into the quote family business? I mean, was there something else that you really wanted to do?
So I actually went to school to become a registered dietitian. And that was really, though, there's a major pragmatic component to me. So I was like, if I'm going to go to school, I knew I wanted to speak. I liked health and nutrition. I was very much into sports. I didn't really know when I was going to school what I was going to do. Very quickly after I was there, when I started doing, I got my master's degree in science. I am a registered dietitian. I went through with all of that and I enjoyed it. But there was pretty early on, I would say probably my sophomore year of college, I knew I wasn't really going to be a practicing registered dietitian because I loved.
Why not?
I loved what I was doing as an entrepreneur. And that was after, my freshman year of college, going around and teaching. And I didn't have a boss. I loved that. I loved the creativity and I was making money. It was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh,
yeah.
This is fun.
I'm pausing that for a second, just to give everyone a timestamp here. And I'm not trying to date you, but we're talking early 2000s, right?
Yes. So I graduated high school in 2001. So this was 2001, 2002, 2003.
Right. Entrepreneurship was not this sexy thing that we all think of it today. It was not this aspirational kind of goal. Did your parents support this move? Were they like, shit, we help? I don't know if they help you with, college and everything. And, we paid all this money, all this education, everything. And, what's Megan doing here? What are we doing?
My parents are one of my secret weapons, along with my spouse and my family, because they've been supportive from day one. They were not entrepreneurs themselves. But they've always, I thought I could do anything because my parents always told me that. And so then when I realized like some parents didn't do that, I was like, what? Your parents didn't believe in you? That's so weird, because I
feel the same way, right? Like having nurturing parents is something that I take for granted, but a lot of people have some real shitty parents and no parents at all.
Yeah. And I can't imagine that. So there was never a moment, Adam, never a moment where my parents were like, I don't think you want to do this. There wasn't. Now, having said that, I will say that the way Tippi Toes grew, it was organic and natural. So Sarah was doing this as a part-time job in college, which when I talk to college students, I'm like, try stuff. Do it now, especially when mom and dad are paying the bills.
Try everything. Yes. Literally try everything. Yeah.
And we were lucky and fortunate that our parents were paying for our life when we were in college. But when we were in those years, we were trying to build a business and it worked. So then honestly, that made it never feel like a huge, scary thing, because by the time Sarah graduated, she was making a good living, and I was still going to go through school, and I continued to go through school for a while longer. Cause I also always wanted to be, if I was a registered dietitian, I could find a job. I could have, it always felt like
it was almost
logical.
a safety net, right? It was almost a safety net. Like it was one of those professions. So when you were watching your sister grow this business, I mean, was there a couple of moments of like almost critical failure, or some of these like really hard lessons that she had to learn in those early days of the business?
There were nothing big though, because again, like there's a term in, I think it's in rework. I need to double check because I love this idea, is shoot BBs before you fire a cannon. That whole idea. So really, for the beginning years, it was a part-time gig for Sarah. So she wasn't relying on it. She didn't need this big income. It was, she could figure out a lot of the issues when it was still small and her livelihood wasn't riding on it. So, but I do remember I remember, I was sitting on her duplex floor one day, and she had just gotten reamed by a parent who was so mad they missed, like, we had all those moments where the customers get mad and they're like, why don't you have a newsletter? And it was like, oh, you're right, we should have a newsletter. Okay. But like, so it's those little lessons, but also very big ones. Like, you learn how to work with people, you learn how to serve people, you learn how to deliver for people. And then that translates, those lessons don't change. Like, it doesn't really change whether we're talking about
customer service and managing expectations. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about $1 million deal with some customer or a mom paying, $60 a month for dance classes. It's the same concept.
And let's talk about that. I mean, you want to talk about customer service. I mean, I live in the burbs here. I've had my daughter in gymnastics and dance, and I've seen some of these moms and dads. I've seen them get feisty with the owners and operators of these businesses. Talk about tough customers. Anything involving moms and kids?
Our approach, we are it's kid friendly. It's fun. It's not competitive.
No.
It is a happy place. We are focused on building the kids' confidence. So honestly, when people come to us, they're looking for a good time. They're looking for fun. They're looking for happiness. Have we had upset parents for different things? 1,000%. But I always kind of go back to, this isn't brain surgery. Anything that happens, we can usually fix. We can adjust it. We can, address it. Yeah. So there have been times when people come to us at 100 degrees and they are ready to rip our face off. And I mean, that happened to me when I was 19. So for me, I remember early on, it was always like, okay, I understand, like I just handled it like I knew how to handle it from, how I was raised or whatever. But now it doesn't faze me at all. I know that to me, when that happens, if somebody comes to you like that, I'm like, man, there's something going on for them.
Yeah. Something inside for them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we diffuse it pretty quickly. There are conversations we have with franchise owners many times, because a lot of times people aren't prepared for that. But when that happens, it doesn't happen that much, just because of the nature of our business. People are paying, for a weekly dance class, 45 minutes once a week. We're not saying you're going to go on to Broadway. We're saying your child's going to come to us. They're going to have fun. They're going to learn concepts of dance. They're going to feel confident. They're going to gain friendships. And that's what you're going to get from us.
And they're going to see if they like it. Yeah, it's a tone.
Yeah. And
not
everybody's going to love it, and we're okay with that. And when somebody comes to us and they're like, they might not like what we're doing, it's like, okay, super. We aren't for everybody. We are for people that want to give dance a try, want to learn, but then what's cool is you get what you put into it. So we have some kids that are with us for years. They learn all sorts of choreography and technique, and it's amazing. And it's fun. But the bottom line is, this is to build their confidence, to have them have fun. And so I think, honestly, Adam, that helps us avoid some of those like horror stories you hear from, dance moms. Like, we don't really experience that to that degree. It's because it happens. But
no, and I mean, it's a different type of dance school. I mean, my daughter is now in competitive dance, and it's a whole different ballgame when they're trying to coordinate competitions and the politics, and don't even get me started with the whole COVID thing over the last couple of years. It's been crazy. So let's shift a little bit. I want to talk about Shark Tank. Did you guys apply for the show, or did the producers come to you guys? Tell us a little bit about that story.
My brother-in-law sent in an application without my sister and I knowing. So we did apply, but we had no idea we applied, if you can believe that. So we watched season 1.
Thanks.
Back in the day, there was no business show. So Shark Tank comes on this scene, and we're like, this is amazing. Yep. I can't believe there's like an entertainment show about business. All of a sudden it felt like, these are my people. This is so cool. But if you remember, like, Shark Tank season 1 was kind of watched, but not that watched, but we were all over it. So my sister would watch it, and her husband, my husband and I would watch it. We lived apart. We never lived in the same place. And then, like, 8 months later or something like that, Sarah gets a phone call. It's like, hey, these are, we're with Shark Tank. We want to talk to you about having you on the show. Sarah gets off the phone and she calls and she's like, they found Shark Tank reached
How did
out,
they
like
find
thinking they were like searching for us. And we were like this golden goose for them, when really turns out she called her husband and he was like, yeah, I'm glad they got the application. And she was like, what are you talking about? So he submitted it. We wanted to be on it, but we didn't ever apply. My brother-in-law did it without us knowing. And then we got the call and we started working with them, and it was a blast.
That's incredible. So let's talk about the actual experience. What did you guys do to prep to be on the show?
There's a lot of prep work in Shark Tank.
People don't see that, right? People come on there
yeah.
and there's an insane amount that I had a buddy that was on it, and the amount of work that you have to do because they want you to be prepared to as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, they do their due diligence. They make sure they're, the businesses on there have their P's and Q's and, all the, I's dotted and T's crossed. So there's that part of it. But we were working with now keep in mind, we were season 2, so it's been like 10 years. But back then we worked with a couple of producers for a few months leading up to the show, where they were working with us on our pitch, kind of helping us through things, asking us questions, nuts and bolts of it. The whole time we never knew if we were going to actually get to go to LA. They never guarantee you anything. They don't have to. They're the TV show. They're, producing entertainment. So at no point did we know we were going until I want to say 2 or 3 days before they said,
oh, wow,
you're booked. Here's your tickets. You're coming to LA and you'll be here for a week. And then once you get there for the week, you still don't know if you're going to get in front of the Sharks. And if you get in front of the Sharks, you still don't know if you're going to get aired. So the whole time you're on the ropes. You don't know what's going on. But
God, what's that pressure like? What's that stress like?
Early on, I was stressed, really, really stressed. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I'm still running a business, by the way. This is a whole separate thing that we're still running Tippi Toes, and it's going great. We have at that point, we had just started franchising. We had 7 franchises. We're still doing all that.
But let's talk economics for a moment. Did you need the funding at that point? Or was it more for exposure, for brand exposure?
So we wanted funds, but we were going there not to talk about franchising. We were going there because we wanted, this will tell you how long ago it was. We wanted to have children's DVDs made of our dance classes so kids could dance at home.
Mm-hmm. So that's what the funding was for. That's
what we wanted. We wanted them to help us produce this. We wanted to be the next Barney. And we still do, to be perfectly honest with you. That's one of the things that we're still going to do. But yeah, that's what we went there for. Now that quickly shifted when the Sharks heard about our franchising business. They were like, don't even talk to us about the DVDs ever again. We will. I think Mr. Wonderful said he would shock us with a ankle bracelet. They wanted all in on the franchising. So on the fly in the Shark Tank, we shifted that conversation as they were like, no, we're not going to talk about that. And we were like, okay, what do you want to talk about?
No, I know. Let's a little behind the scenes here. They do a lot of editing on those shows. Do they give you a moment to chat with your sister? Do they give you could you do a timeout? Could we just have a quick sidebar over here?
Yeah. So there's no actual timeout. The cameras are always on. We were in there for an hour and you see 8 minutes. So in our episode, we went out to the hallway. You don't ever see us going out to the hallway. I remember we had a camera right here, right next to our face. And we were out in the hallway trying to do math. Adam, I couldn't have added 2 + 2 together at that point. So I covered my mouth and I'm mumbling to Sarah so only she could hear it. Because I was like, I cannot have this on national television. No. Being like, what's 10% of 300,000?
Yeah,
I was like,
trying to figure it out.
I have no idea right now. I couldn't have ever put those thoughts together.
Do you think, and it's just kind of coming to my head, is that a real handicap disadvantage for anyone coming on the show where the pressure's so high that these sharks are going to take advantage of somebody? Right, because the lights are on, the pressure's on. I mean, this is your livelihood, this is your business. Some folks are about to give away X amount of equity and stake in their company, and you're like, shit, I gotta do this crazy math. Cuban or Lori or one of these people trying to give me all this money, but how much do they want? Is this worth it? That's crazy to have to make that kind of decision that quickly.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, is nobody had forced me there. There were a million exits before I got to that point in the hallway, and so. Yeah, it's hard. It's a challenge for your brain. It doesn't feel good. It feels like you are on the hot seat, but also someone's willing to give you a ton of money. So it's kind of put up or shut up. So yes, I mean,
double-edged sword, of course.
I think it puts you on your heels, but also first of all, I also think it's really important for people to never forget they're producing a television show.
Right. There's an entertainment
their
factor
number
to
one
it.
priority is
Right.
not for my family's livelihood to thrive. Their number one priority is to make a really good TV show.
And
I never forgot
and
that.
the producers are very clear. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. My buddy had the experience where the producers are very clear about all of this going into it. There's a lot of legal paperwork going into it. There's a lot of diligence. And at the end of the day, they're very clear. Like, this is a show. Like, and so they've, in the past, and I want to hear about your experience, they've made offers before, and then they've rescinded them, or you're able to back out at a certain point, like once you get to due diligence. But what happened? Did Cuban made you an offer on the show?
Yeah, so Cuban ended up making us an offer on the show. We were thrilled. We were pumped. We hug him, high five, run out the hallway. Life was good, right? And we go back and we communicate with him here and there. It was great. He was so receptive, so kind, sent back emails back. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we're also working with his team on working through the contract and those kinds of things. And, at the time of the Shark Tank, we'd never seen a contract with him. It's not like we knew any terms. We didn't know anything other than
equity dilution, all this and that, and shares and
nothing,
conversion, and
no other details. And so there were just a few things in that negotiation that we wanted to adjust. And there was that wasn't something that was going to happen. They were not going to make any concessions, which again, he holds the cards. He doesn't have to make any concessions, but we don't have to sign the deal if we don't feel good about that. And so we didn't feel good about it. We tried to negotiate. We wanted to make it work. It didn't work. We walked away. And he wasn't happy about it, but also, like, I've never regretted it. One of those things where there's what could have been. I've not spent any time wondering what could have been. You can't have those
regrets.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, first I'd like to thank you all for spending time with me and my guest on the podcast. This show is my canvas to showcase amazing people from the world of recruiting, entrepreneurship, and leadership, and unpack their career journeys for everyone to learn from. But this show is also a business generator for me, as well as creating thought leadership and endless amazing content. And I've taken what I've learned in the past 3 years and over 200 recorded and 100 live shows and distilled it down into a digital playbook that I call the Pause Course. Now you could learn how I build, manage, and produce the podcast and use it to drive real business development and relationships. Today, I'm sharing all of my secrets behind the podcast, and you can get it all at thepausecourse.com. This course is for anyone, whether you're starting out or an advanced podcaster using it for B2B and B2C. It's filled with all of my insights, learnings, tips, tricks, and templates. So get it now at thepausecourse.com and learn all my secrets. Thanks. So let me ask you a question. What did you learn from Mark Cuban himself during that experience?
I would say, I was amazed that he got back to our emails. And I remember how much that made me feel seen and important from him. Because I was like, I'd get an email back from him quickly and I was like, wow. And I think I remember thinking, you're never too... I think there's a part sometimes where I think like, oh, once you get to a certain place, you kind of keep everybody at arm's length. And he didn't. He responded. And I thought that was great. And then I also think one of the things I learned from that whole experience is you have to know what you care about most in your life. Because if you don't know, you're going to find yourself really confused, really hurt, really pissed, really, upset at a certain point, because you're going to make decisions not based on what you really want, and so for us, one of the things that we were going to be losing was some autonomy and ability to create things we wanted to outside of franchising. And I knew that if my one job was going to be to go sign franchise agreements, that was going to rip my soul out. I was never somebody that wanted to just go sign agreements. Now, does it sound fun to grow Tippi Toes? Yeah, but like, I can't just be someone going around pushing these contracts across tables. That's not me.
It's not you.
And so, that was one of the determining factors. And I needed to know what I cared most about. I cared about my flexibility. I cared about me being able to create. And so, that helped me walk away from $100,000 because I was like, am I willing to give that up? $100,000 comes and goes. $100,000 cannot be my motivation. It cannot change who I am. $100,000, money comes. It's an outcome. It's not a motivation.
I love that.
And so those are the things that really made an impact for me when we were making that decision.
That's smart. So let's talk about decision making. Let's talk about franchising. Was that always part of the plan? Was it always expansion to share the story, to share the experience?
No, not at all. It was, we always wanted to expand, but I didn't know what franchising was in 2005. I knew McDonald's did it and it worked out for them, but there was no grand plan. I have no business background in that. I knew nothing, but Before Shark Tank, we were trying to, like I said, we were trying to produce this children's television show. We were working with some people in LA, putting some money, some energy into the idea of producing a television show. Well, after about a year of working with them, we go out to LA to finally meet them. And it was a complete disaster. We did not want to work with them. It
What
was
happened?
not what we thought it was. It was just like they had all these grand plans and all these things that they said they were going to do. And then when you go there and you actually see it, you're
it's
like,
all bullshit, all smoke and mirrors.
This is all, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
1,000%. And so we were like, okay, so we're in LA. We went there for this and we're like, fell flat on our face. It was a hard hell no. It was like, that's all wasted. It was nothing. And we're sitting there with a couple of people. And one of the people said to us, have you ever thought about franchising? Sarah and I look at each other and we're like, no, we've never thought about it. And then the wheels start turning and you're like, huh. At that point, Sarah and I had both moved from Norman, Oklahoma. I moved to Stillwater. She moved to Kansas City. We took Tippi Toes wherever we went and we kept it wherever it was. We kind of started franchising.
You kind of did it without knowing it. Yeah.
Without knowing what we were doing. Yeah. And so somebody said that and I was like, man, that's interesting. Let's think about that. And also at that point in my life, I had so many of my friends, I was 24 at the time. I had so many of my friends say to me, God, you're so lucky. You like this flexible job. You can do whatever you want to. You're building your own business. This is so cool. Again, this is still it's cool to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, yeah, it's super cool. Like, and at that point in my life, I was like, I can't imagine like going into an office or having like time off or like, you know, whatever. And so, yeah. And so all of that stuff, so that was another part of it. I thought, yeah, I mean, I know there's friends of mine that like want this opportunity. So that means there's probably other people in the world. So we go home from LA and I buy Franchise Management for Dummies. And I'm like, what?
It's a real book.
What is, it is a real book. It
Yellow
is,
cover and all. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've got it someplace. It's like actually my pride and joy now. And I start reading it and I'm like, okay, FDD, what is this? Okay, I could just start learning, and then we get a consultant, and we're off to the races. We spend a year preparing documents and writing down every single thing we do, and then we sold our first franchise in 2009. Now we've got 33, I think, and then one in China. Yeah.
Who is this franchise for? Right, because a lot of people out there, they think about ways to create income. Maybe they have a nut of cash that they're sitting on, and they start to look. Okay, wow, I see Dunkin' Donuts is a profitable franchise. Maybe I'm going to open up a Mike's Subs or something. Or wait, what is this? A Tippi Toes dance school? Not for everybody. Not for everybody. Who's this for?
Yeah, so I think it's for somebody that wants to make an impact in their community, wants to impact the next generation. I think really having a passion for wanting to give something to kids that's positive and happy. And I think that's at the heart of what we do. And I really want people around us that really believe in the mission, which is to bring joy to kids through dance. So that's part of it. But also, if you're going to buy a franchise, there has to be some part of you that wants to follow a framework, but then also bring your own genius to the table.
Right.
And that's an interesting balance to walk, but that is the way to success in franchising. And so, what's really cool about Tippi Toes is it gives someone flexibility right out the gate, because you don't have to build out a studio for Tippi Toes. So as you're getting started, you get your feet wet, you get your customer base, you're going to preschools and daycares and community centers. And then many of our franchise owners end up opening a studio a few years later when they've got this established business, established name in their town. They're making an impact. So, I think it's somebody that wants flexibility in their life. I think it's somebody that wants to make an income for their family, to make, to also build something that they can pass on to their family. I think that's really cool and important. And I think it's for somebody that wants to make an impact in the next generation.
I love it. That's powerful stuff there. So let's switch gears. I want to talk about the podcast, the Who Is Your Momma podcast. And I love, as a fellow podcaster, what was the impetus to start a show? What was that first scratch that you had, that first itch that you had to scratch?
Yeah. Well, it was me with tiny little babies. I've got 3 kids, 9 and under. And I had this, the entrepreneur spirit is alive and well in me, but I'm a full-time mom. Like I wanted to be the one raising the kids. We have no help. We never have. It's, I'm all in all the time. And so I had little babies and I was running Tippi Toes and that's all I could do. But I could listen to Gary Vee and I could listen to other podcasters that were like talking about building your brand and doing all this. And I was like, I don't have any headspace to do that. But I was priming myself for when I could actually take action. So, I have to say a lot of it was Gary Vee in the beginning of like building. Everybody should have a podcast. You should do the. And I'm like, okay, what would that be? Yeah, and then I go back. what would that feel like? And I know it had to be authentic to who I am. And so here I am raising these kiddos, and I'm thinking, obviously, is it going to be about franchising? Is it going to be about building your own business? And I'm like, yes, maybe. But then I thought, what I really want to know as my kids got older is how can I be the best parent to them? And then what I love to do, I love to read business books. I love to read, Shoe Dog by, Phil Knight,
Yep.
or I love to read, any entrepreneur story. I love to learn from their journey. And so I thought, I want to learn from the moms who have raised amazing people. I start to follow, Jesse Itzler and Sarah Blakely and Gary Vee. And I'm like, it's just dawned on me, like, I want to be a better parent than what I would just do on my own. And why would I not go to the experts? Well, who's a parenting expert? Sure, there's researchers and, good research papers, but also I know.
Let's talk to real moms.
Yeah, let's talk to real moms.
Let's talk to real moms.
Mm-hmm.
People want real stories, and it's kind of the funny thing too. When I remember, and I loved your take on this. Like when my daughter, my eldest, people were like recommending like birthing books and parenting books, and I'm like, I don't want to read any of that shit. I just want to experience it, and we'll figure this thing out. Did cavemen have books on parenting for dummies? Right. And that's really the advice I give anyone. I like when people ask for parenting advice, I say, the only advice I'm going to give you before you have your first kid is get as much sleep as possible. That's it.
Yeah.
And go at it. And that's it.
Yeah. And the other thing that I love about my podcast is the proof is in the pudding. If you want to know, if you want to take this lady's advice, go look up her kids and then you make the judgment. You decide, do you think she's got chops? Do you think she's got tips you might be able to help? Well, I think Sarah Blakely's mom did a pretty good job. Sarah Blakely, we all know who Sarah Blakely is.
Yep.
And not as many people know her brother Ford started a company called Zingle and sold it for $42 million.
Yeah. So the DNA is pretty good.
What the hell did her parents do?
Pretty good. I'll tell you, I love watching Jesse's Instagram with those kids and their craziness in that house and the way they raise them there. And you could see that parenting come down. I mean, I listened to the show where you had Jesse's, with Sarah's mom on, and then you could see it. And I see it myself, the way I parent my kids, the way my parents parented me. Like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
No. And you know what? It's changed how I've parented, talking to these moms. And the other thing that it's my very favorite thing is nobody is talking to these women. No one is picking their brain. No one is saying, what did you do? How did you feel? Why did you do that? What did that mean?
Did you get Gary's mom? Did you try? You're trying?
I've tried.
Come on, we know people.
Yeah, I would love to.
And I know people who know people.
Yeah. I have tried. I've talked. It's like Instagram message. And so I hope to someday, but you know what else has been really cool is it's fun to have people that are well known, but it's also been like, I've had some moms who nobody knows their kids other than the fact their kids are awesome. Like maybe one of my guests, all of her 5 kids played college sports and they're all like, doctor, they're all just amazing people and they're happy and they're fulfilled and they give back and they do all this. Her story was incredible. And so and us parents, like, yes, it's nice to have a Gary Vee. Sarah Blakely was great. Colin O'Brady's mom, Jay Williams, Kyler Murray. Like I've had a lot of really great parents that the kids are well known, but also when it gets down to the nitty gritty, what also I've learned, I've had D-Rock's mom too. D-Rock's mom's mom, she was amazing. But also parenting is like the most, it's like the level playing field. When we are all in you have to have the humility, you have to have the patience. Your kids don't give a damn if they're going to make you look bad, challenge you. And so like, there's this eating playing field of like, no matter who you are, all of us parents can relate to these messages. So I love it so much.
You literally answered my next question. Who's your dream mom that you would love to have on the show besides Gary Vee's mom?
Yeah. Okay. So definitely Gary Vee. There's a lot. I would love to have Sue Bird's mom. She is awesome. I love her. Candace Parker. I'd love to have her mom. So those are my athletes that I've thought of. Elaine Welteroth. She is one that I would love to have. She is just an icon in the fashion industry, and I'd love to talk to her mom. I've got a really long list of moms. I'd like to. Matt Damon's mom is another one. I feel
like they're accessible too, and those are some tricks to the trade too. Like, how do we go about accessing, these people's moms, which is kind of What would you say is what's like one story that completely shocked you that you had no idea was coming?
I mean, it's probably the most well-known one, but I did not see it coming. It totally, honestly, like solidified why I'm doing the podcast, and it changed how I'm parenting. It was when Ellen Blakely said Sarah would come to me. She said she would come to me and she'd say she was bored. And I would look at her and I would say, you've got toys, go figure it out. And all of a sudden I was like, my mind blew, because like in theory, yeah, like I'd like to think you say like, oh, go play outside. But to hear that from her so plainly, that like, of course your kids want you to entertain them. And she was like, no, go figure it out. And then she went on to say, so then Sarah would go invent games and go sell things to her friends and go draw pictures and go sell it to their neighbors. And then it developed into all of these other things. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh. And so now, ever since that conversation in the summers, which I guess it's only been one summer, I act like it's been forever, but we have a week of boredom at our house. Now, I always embrace
What's a week
my
of
kids
a
being
week
bored.
of bored a week of boredom? And you talk about that week. I mean, we kind of see it as a week between the end of camp and school starting.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do nothing for a week with my kids. Nothing. There's no TV. I am not taking you to a camp. I'm not giving you a craft. I am not giving you anything. You have our house, our front yard, our backyard. You've got 2 sisters.
All the craft supplies, you have everything in this house. Figure it out.
Whatever you want. You do whatever you want to. And I do it. Now, I don't just do it that week and then I'm like, that's it. Okay. Hopefully they're learning it. I now do that all the time. Like when my kids say I'm bored, they actually don't tell me I'm bored anymore, or that they're bored anymore, because they're so annoyed. Oh, because they're just like, I know I'm going to go create something wonderful. Because I always like feed the line from what I learned. But I do it all the time, but I specifically have a week, because normally in the summer, I'm like, okay, you're going to go to horse camp. You're going to go to dance camp. You're going to go here. Then we're going to have vacation. Then you'll be back at school. Woo. And it's like,
I'm done. It's all planned out.
Go, I don't know, go build a mud pile. And then they do. And actually the first time we did this, my kids decided to make bracelets and they went and go to sell it to their neighbors. Our poor neighbors are going to have to mortgage their house. And
right. How many bracelets are going to buy? Right.
Yeah. But then she decided to donate it to a hospital. And I'm like,
that's such a valuable lesson, is to empower your kids and not just tell them what to do, right? Let them figure shit out there too. What do you think is the most important lesson you learned as a parent by doing your show? I mean, for me, I talk about it all the time. Like my podcast is my masterclass. I have folks like yourself on. I have amazing folks, and this is how I learn. And I think my business has grown tremendously by having these types of conversations. So what have you learned by doing your show from a parenting perspective?
So much. Probably number one is like, it's going to be fine. Like I get in my head too much and sometimes think like, are they going to be these, fulfilled and happy and loved and supported? And, and it's like, no, they're just continue to show up for your kids and be there. And I heard that over and over from all the moms. There's a few, threads that I heard time and time again. And one of them was just like, be there for them. And then the other one is enable them for who they are. Like don't try to change your kids or push them into be something else. So I would say that. And so it's given me a big, deep breath, Adam. Like I can I'm like, okay, I'm trying, and that's enough. Like if we're trying as parents, that's enough. Right.
And there's so much effort there. So what have you learned? I mean, the last couple of years have been insane with us. For anybody who's not a working parent, who doesn't have kids, and they think it's great that they've been able to work from home, it's been a blessing and a curse. I mean, trying to get anything done with the kids around there, being productive, keeping your business running the household. I mean, have you been managing it? Have you and your husband been managing it?
It is so freaking hard, Adam. I mean, it's so freaking hard. I've cried more in the past 2 years, just to be perfectly frank, than I did ever before, because there is no break. My kids are just going back to school for the first time 1 week before Christmas, because I wanted them to be vaccinated before they went to school. They've been home since March 2020. It has been so hard. By the way, they're 5, 7, and 9. Like, it's not like they're self-sufficient, like it's.
I'm right there with you.
Really
I get it. I'm 9 and 3. Yeah. Yep. I'm right there with you.
So having said that, yes, I've been crying, but also I've been focused on what I can do. So like, I started with I've cried because I don't want it to be like, it's fine. I just focus my energy on what matters most. Like, yes, I have, but it's been freaking hard. You know what I mean? So like, let's not pretend like it's been whatever. Also, I have to say, for me, this wasn't as hard because I chose this life before the pandemic. My kids were at home. The
adjustment period wasn't as great as other people.
I'd already been on conference calls wiping someone's ass without anybody else knowing it, because I would hide my screen. Like, I've already done that. It wasn't new
you only
for
see
me,
from you only see from here up.
Yeah, there's so many things happening here you don't know about, Adam, and it's just fine. You know,
you
what I
just
mean?
don't ask, don't tell. I love
all
that one.
All you need to see is this. Yes,
exactly.
So I've already done this. So for me, it wasn't as much of a huge shift, and I really felt for the parents that didn't ask for it, didn't want it, didn't whatever. That's hard.
Right. Right. I mean, think about it. Some people are just not productive. They can't be productive at home for the type of job, the type of work, the type of focus and energy they need. They can't have freaking screaming kids all over the place.
Of course you can't. It's so hard. I mean, I've been working in a closet for the past 2 years because I have to have a door that no one can see me. So, but it goes back to focus on what is in your control. There is shit you can't control, and don't spend your time or energy on it. Focus on what is within your control. And if all of a sudden you're only focusing on what's in your control, you move a hell of a lot faster. You get a lot more accomplished because you're not worrying about things out of your control.
I love it. So let me ask you this. You're close with Jesse Itzler and Sarah Blakely. What have you learned from them as a power couple? What have you learned from having a front row seat to their life?
They're awesome. They're just great humans. I have really loved getting to know them. And like, you know, I'm not braiding Sarah's hair on the weekends or anything. So I don't want it to seem like, you know, whatever, but I have gotten to have exchanges with them and conversations with them. And what I love is their belief in whatever they're doing. And I think that goes back to like, they believe before anything would happen. I think more back to Sarah's story and Spanx. She believed in what she was doing before everybody else did. Jesse believes in what he does more than anybody else does. I think their belief in what they do every day really matters. They believe in pouring into their kids. That's why they're right there with their kids all the time. So they are so like, what you see is what you get with them as well. Like I did have the opportunity to go to their house this summer, and so chill. So real, just like I was trying not to freak out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm at their house. What is happening? This is crazy. But like, also then we're like just hanging out and just chatting about business and whatever.
They're just normal people.
They're so normal. And I just think they do the things that they really believe in. And that's what they talk about. And that's what you see. Like what you see on Instagram is what you get in real life. And it's a joy and a thrill and an honor to be considered, you know, friends of theirs.
I love it. So let's bring it home here. I love your story. What's next for Tippi Toes? What's on the horizon?
A lot more Tippi Toes franchises. A lot. We are going to grow a lot. And, you know, we have, the pandemic hit us really hard. We go into schools and teach dance. You can imagine it was really, really hard during that
Studios
time.
Are closing, can't open,
oh my
can't
God.
be together.
Yeah, I mean,
can't imagine.
We were almost completely shut down for a long time. During that time, corporate, what Sarah and I decided to do was double down on what we were doing, double down on who we are. We know we're good at what we do. We know we offer the best dance classes. We rebranded, we focused on our processes, and we are in a position now to really grow and expand. And we've changed we've changed some things to put us in a position to grow. We're also in a different place in our life than we were 10 years ago when we started franchising. We've learned all those lessons, and we're really ready to get Tippi Toes to be in just more places. So we're able to facilitate more new franchises, which is really exciting. So the hope and the plan is a lot more growth, a lot more Tippi Toes franchises, and expanding. We've expanded into China in 2020, and that's been amazing and exciting to see. There's kids.
How's that
in
experience?
Beijing.
Did you go there?
I haven't gone there. So we sold the franchise in February 2020. All
right. That's probably not where you want to be going during the start of the pandemic.
Yeah. And so we have not been there, but they have opened up. They've got 4 studios they're running now, and it's beautiful and wonderful. And the kids are getting that same happy, positive experience of Tippi Toes here in China. And I love it.
Share the love. Share the love. That's awesome.
So a lot of growth. That's what's ahead for Tippi Toes. A lot of growth and a lot of opportunity for people that want to start a business and make some real money and make a real impact.
The word that really kind of is rising to the top throughout this conversation is the word authenticity. I hear it, I feel it in everything that you're saying and doing. What does that word mean to you?
Showing up as you are. Like, I don't like, I hear that a lot, that you are. I don't know how to not be. I don't know what that means. I can't imagine being like, hi, Adam, I have it all figured out. Like I don't know. I continue to show up. I go back to my parents. I was raised by amazing humans that love each other and support each other. And I have an amazing husband who loves me and supports me. The people, I'm in a safe place a lot of my days, and that allows me to be myself. And so I don't ever feel like I have to have a guard up. And I think that's been the greatest gift of my life, and it's made me who I am today. But I think being authentic is just knowing, there's not another side of me. I do curse a heck of a lot more than I do on podcasts. That's the only thing that people don't necessarily see. But I try to keep it clean every now and then.
Yeah, it's all right. I have a potty mouth. My kids have a potty mouth. My parents who were just staying with us said, because my 3-year-old cursed a couple of times, and she's like, Adam, you were cursing at that age too. You grew up in Brooklyn. I mean, it's embrace it. At least teach your kids how to curse properly.
Put it in the right context. Yeah.
Right. Like
I will say though, that's not what happens in Oklahoma. I was born and raised in Oklahoma, and you don't do that.
No,
so
Brooklyn, Long Island.
No,
we got a different one. Megan, what is the single greatest piece of advice you've ever received that you take action on every single day?
An amazing question.
I have 200 of these answers.
I know. And I heard it ahead of time, and I was like, I really want to have a good answer, but I also don't like to think ahead because I want it to be like on the spot. You know what? Honestly, I think it is, believe in the impossible. Like, believe in those things that you kind of think in your heart and you're like, oh, I don't really think. I believe in so many big things that aren't the actual reality right now, but like, I know it's going to happen. And I think about my relationship with Sarah and Jesse. I think about Tippi Toes being an international franchise. I think of my marriage. I think of like, I had these dreams of really, really amazing, wonderful things. And I've always believed in them genuinely in my soul. And then it's when you really do genuinely believe in it, it happens. Like whether you're manifesting, praying, whatever you want it to be.
That's the secret, my friend.
Believing. Yeah, really believing in it. And not like fake believing, but like, no, really, I believe in it. And the list of things that I believe in is really long. And so I'm excited. Like every day I'm excited for which one of those things is going to come true today. I don't know, but I'm excited for it. So I think really having that self-belief is crucial. And I have to have it every day.
Well said. And last but not least, you look back on your life and you look back and listen, not everything is exciting. You don't wake up every morning, sunshine and rainbows. And we have those dark days. We have those dark times. We have those struggles. And those are the moments when you got to dig deep into that shit pit and pull up and pull out and pull through with that tenacity that you have. And then on the flip side of it, Megan, right now, what you just said, just exuding gratitude and being truly thankful for everything that you've manifested in your life, your beautiful family, your relationships, your business. What keeps you focused? What is your compass? Megan Reilly, what is your North Star in life?
My North Star, I would say, is treating people with kindness. Like I want to be someone that's always a champion for people. And whether that's Sarah Blakely or whether that's a homeless person on the side of the road, like I want to be the champion for people. I want when people think of me, I want them to be like, she was always good to people. She always took care of people. That's what I care most about, whether that's my people, my kids, my husband, my family, people that, franchise owners, our customers. Like, I just want to take care of people. I want to support people and be kind to people. And I want to be a champion for people. And as my business and everything has grown, one of the greatest gifts for me has been being able to pay it forward to people that are trying to hustle and grind and get up. I love supporting them. So I would say it's being a champion for other human beings and caring for other people with kindness all the time.
I love it. Megan Reilly, thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. I want everyone to check out her show, the Who Is Your Momma podcast, available on all the major platforms. And please check out tippitoesdance.com. Megan Reilly, thank you so much for joining us today. Hang with me one moment.
Adam Posner, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And to everyone listening, I hope you really enjoyed this show. If you did, please share it. Sharing means caring. It goes a long way. So does reviews and ratings. We certainly appreciate it. And you know where you could find more at thepodcast.com, all of our social media channels. Thank you again for listening. Remember, take care of each other, look out for one another, and catch us next week for another good episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.